Today, we're going to go on a little journey together, and it'll be audio, not video, but I think for the right person listening to this will be kind of a treat. But we're going to explore some of the themes of the Taurus full moon that we're currently under the influence of. And my goal is to weave together some of the threads I've been noticing within the current currents and leave you hopefully with some signs and synchronicities. One thing I've learned from sitting with the moon for the past few years is ultimately that we're never alone. And so I want to share some of that with you. I've been writing about the new moons over on my Substack for the last year. But today I felt pulled to talk about the full moon. And so I'll share a little bit about the archetype of Taurus and the place in the sky where the moon is transiting, stirring the waters, helping us turn the tides and alchemize our experiences. One of the questions that I perceive the moon to be asking us to reflect upon right now is, am I protecting myself from getting out of my comfort zone? So I'll say that one more time. Am I protecting myself from getting out of my comfort zone? A little more about Taurus before we really get into the depths of what we're talking about here. I'm going to argue right here, right now, that Taurus is a worthy archetype to spend some time with in inner and outer exploration. So I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First is that Taurus is an earth sign concerned with resources, values, safety, resilience, beauty, food, comfort. There's more than that, but that's a decent jumping off point. Do you sense at all that your perception or experience of any of those things I just named is distorted in any way? If so, it's just this whole full moon, before and after it, it's a good time, during it especially, it's a good time to come and sit with the archetype of Taurus. So tap out of the rush and the race for the next few minutes or so, and just come on this journey with me if you want to. One thing that I've noticed about Taurus is that it's a sign that doesn't get enough credit for how deep it really is. The polarity of Taurus is Scorpio, which is a sign all about getting to the bottom of things, plumbing the depths. And one of the reasons for that Taurus is on the polarity is that getting real with yourself about what you value, how you spend time, what you spend money and energy on. That's a super confronting process, and it's confronting in a way that a lot of our societal conditioning teaches us to avoid at nearly any cost. So this is a practice, that's what I'm saying, and I'm also saying that right now is a good time to practice that. So I also submit to you that if you work with the moon cycles in an intentional way, revelations are possible. Quantum leaps and timeline jumps. Some people say those things. So take what fits. But Taurus is ruled by Venus, the planet of desire. Yes, Venus is related to love and relationships, but more importantly, desire. So what do you want? Have you connected with what you really want? Like, at a soul level recently? If there are any things, people, places, ideas you're clinging to out of fear, what would you like to call in or ask for instead? Sometimes we can think we want something in our minds, but in our bodies or hearts or souls, we don't really want that thing. So it's possible that we think we should want that thing. Do you know what I mean? Or the truth is, or the truth can be, that we don't really want it. So that message is for somebody. Take it if it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. A lot of the time, the reason for this is that we identify as the person who does not have access to that thing in some way. All of your problems are meeting needs, is another way to say that. So ask yourself, what is it that you really want? What would you love? What would you love? Have you allowed yourself to do one of those exercises? Sometimes they seem silly, where you write about or make art about a day or a week in your ideal life. Have you ever written a letter from your future self to your current self? When you manifest or perform ritual, what are you calling in or asking for help with? When you ask others for help, what are you making a priority to ask for help with? I'm not going to get too deep into the other astrological stuff that's going on this full moon, because there are a lot of distractions happening. And I think if I try to talk to you about different aspects and planetary energies that are interacting in the sky, it'll just be the situation where it mirrors that and takes away from our focus on the moon. But I do want to let you know to expect turbulence, and that if you fall off here and there, just get back on the ride. Strap yourself back in again. There's no need to be harsh on yourself for not staying in the seat 100% of the time. For most of us, that would be deeply unrealistic. It can feel like you're experiencing the element of fire or water in a harsher way than normal, and also in rapid succession. Right now, your tenacity, your compassion, and your rootedness is being tested repeatedly, and possibly in new ways. Can you stay with the friction and hold the line when yourself or others in the room are uncomfortable, without undermining the power of your words or actions? Can you practice returning to yourself when you forget who you are? This is a little bit of a side tangent, but I promise you it's entirely related to what we're talking about here. There's a common metaphor allegory related to war being conflict, or conflict being war. And there's a lot of ways we can work with that idea, but if we treat interpersonal conflicts and internal conflicts with the level of intentionality and strategy they call for, it can be restorative and or transformational. Mars is one of the rulers of Scorpio, which is the polarity of Taurus, and his archetype is often associated with war. One thing about war is it's not inevitable, but conflict is. Conflict is just going to happen. And conflict can be generative. Conflict resolution is one of the ways we can avoid unnatural horrors like war. So this is some of that Taurus-Scorpio axis magic, and you can see why I'm kind of going on about it. Unless you can't, in which case, honestly, you probably still wouldn't be listening to this. So one more thing about the moon before we dive in deeper. If the sun is related to our consciousness and expression, or the thing that happens, the moon is related to our reflections upon that thing that happened. You already know this, but I want to point out that a lot of the time, a lot of the power or self-realization within our experience lies within what happens during your reflections and not within the moment where the thing happens. So a full moon is a wonderful time for that kind of reflective and integrative work. There's not going to ever be a perfect time or a perfect moment, but this moment is supportive if you're willing to go there and you believe that you can do it. So with that, I have a few quotes, ideas, experiences I want to bring into the field with us. And before we take the next step inward, I want to remind you that you are the authority on your experience, if something isn't for you, leave it for who is meant to hear it. You retain safety within yourself to turn this message off at any time for any reason. Okay, so here we go. The first quote is from Ocean Pleasant, who writes the Witchy Kid Substack, and it says, "The astrology of the moment is requiring you to be honest with yourself about the investments in your life that are paying off and the ones you are maintaining for the sake of appearances and safety." Next are two things that Jessica from Bahati Life said. The first is, what is shifting right now is meant to liberate you, not harm you. And the other thing she said that I really liked is, what have you been clinging to out of fear? And then the next group of quotes are from a monthly newsletter that one of my new friends, Becky, sent at the end of October, the very, very end of it. And I see them as directly related to today's topic. The first one says, "Humanity is here to learn, adapt, and to enjoy the magnificence of life. We are here to be conscious, to see and appreciate the wondrous works of creation that we literally live in." She also said, "Seeds are next year's hope, and enough is a word I like." She also reflected a message from a recent meeting among a group of people that I share some values with that relates to the Taurus-Scorpio axis. "The planet is an overshoot, and there will be no returning to a familiar normal." So I want to pause here and mention that comfort and safety are some of the things related to Taurus. Next, I want to bring in some Sabian symbols. So we're going to talk about the Sabian symbols for the degrees where the moon and the sun currently are. Sabian symbols are a collection of images and words that I've been studying for about 2 years. There's one for every degree in the zodiac, and I don't know enough to tell you what exactly they are or what they do. I just know enough to bring them into the conversation, so that's what I'm going to do. And if anything comes up for you, syncs, I'm interested in any reflections you want to share, so feel welcome to do that about anything in this video, really. I'll be reading the title of each symbol and some of the interpretation done by James Burgess, who studies Sabians, and he has a really good website about them. So until further notice, all of this is taken from his site. The moon is at 13 degrees, 23 minutes of Taurus, and with Sabians, we round up 1. Anything between 13 and 14 degrees, we're reading for Taurus 14, so here she is. The name of the Sabian symbol is shellfish groping and children playing. And the interpretation, self-development through play, attending to our self-centered interests. When we improve ourselves, others do the same. The community as a field of potential for the emergence of a balanced individual. We cannot evolve into our fullest potential without a community. The idea that we can serve others altruistically is a delusion. The primary impulse is self-service and survival. The process of emergence happens in community and relationship. The helping of others comes naturally when your actions align with what you love, what serves you, and a byproduct of that is you end up serving others in a way that doesn't take away from you. Or if it does, decreasingly so as you begin to reconnect with yourself, your body, and your desires. The sun is at Scorpio 14, which is also about networking and community. The symbol is called Telephone Lineman at Work. And the interpretation is creating interactive networks of communication and cooperation is an essential aspect of community building. Widespread communication of feelings and thought. None of us have access to the full picture or complete knowledge. We must interact with others to listen and share our own ideas. We assist others who don't have access yet to our degree of awareness, and they assist us to demonstrate universality with compassion. This is not a hierarchical thing. It is of no consequence whether master or slave, because both depend on each other for self-identification. Being neither is true freedom. So most of that was from James Burgess, if not his direct words, but then sort of my translation of his direct words. So check out his website if you are interested in Sapiens. So one thing I'm taking from this is if you're scared of connecting with people in a meaningful way or finding others with shared values, make a point to find out why. From my understanding, it's really about the both and. You can't help people until you find out what you want and what is driving those desires. Don't pray for rain or seek for an escape. Become the rain or create the escape route for yourself and others. Recently, I have felt almost placed, like I needed to go. Something within me directed me to go to a couple of community events. And I've been reconnecting with my desires and building community for a while. And reaching new layers of it is always just so interesting. Yeah, the other night I went to a very connective event where people were they were given the space and the time to share their story and how they came to be, came to be in that room. And so it was so interesting to hear how everyone got there. And it was also interesting to feel into how rigid some of the ways we've been conditioned to show up or to back down, even at the slightest hint of resistance or difference. But I also witnessed a lot of bravery and a lot of people tapping into their own power, and not in an aggressive way, certainly in an assertive way. Another thing is I was excited to hear about how so many people in that room were talking about building bridges rather than arguing semantics or strategy, talking about connecting different groups together to form a larger network of action and co-creation. And there's actually, even though that just happened yesterday, there has been action. Things are moving quickly. So you'd be surprised if you're someone who tends to not find your people, not look for them. Venturing out could be surprising in the best way. All of this stuff may or may not sound obvious, but it's actually revolutionary. Urgency is part of the colonial and patriarchal programming a lot of us experienced and still experience. And many of us did not believe or do not believe that we have time to slow down and intentionally connect with our desires. because Venusian things can seem frivolous when so much is moving, collapsing, shifting around us. But the truth is that beauty and stability are important to humans. Always have been. So if you were to ask me, spending time uncovering your desires may be some of the most important work in the world, if there is such a thing. I love that these conversations are happening, and I know they're happening now, in the past, in the future, and all over the world, and that more people are dissolving the witch wound, claiming their agency every day. This moon is really all about aligning your values so that you can connect with a group of people who will bring you greater abundance and further your process of individuation. And in turn, you'll help them. You just got to make sure that you're being really honest with yourself about what you want to spend time doing, why you do those things, what's important to you, and how you want to be spending your time. Not the things that you think you should want to do, the things that you want to do, that you feel that pull from your heart, from inside of you. Those are the things. They might shift, they might change, and that's okay. But start following that thread, and it will lead you to the place you're looking for. Do not shame yourself if there's a chasm between what you find when you're honest with yourself about what you spend your time doing, why you do those things, what's important to you, and how you want to be spending your time. Just feel for what you want and begin visualizing that. And the steps will appear as long as you're not blocking your ability to see them because you're afraid of what happens next. To close this out, I want to sprinkle a few more breadcrumbs for anyone who feels captivated by these ideas and feels the pull of the energy of the full moon. For more help on getting out of your own way, I recommend taking a look at The Headless Way. Richard Lang does videos about this, Lang. And then Gordon White's book, The Chaos Protocols, has some ceremonial ways of experiencing that if you're drawn to such things. For those who enjoy theatrics, ceremony and ritual might be something to tap into if you haven't already. Venus work for the desire stuff. And shadow work in general will help with any of the blockages we've talked about today. Pluto's good. Rose medicine, spider medicine. Also the bull, the bison, the buffalo, the cow. There's also the oak tree. And there is a video on YouTube by Michael Mead called How Not to Abandon Oneself. So that is what I have for you today on the Taurus full moon. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you tomorrow.